Buzz Aldrin, lovely to have you in New Zealand again. Are you enjoying your time here?
You betcha I am.
I'm not going to ask you a lot of questions. I'm wondering if you might be able to do something for me. I have a photograph here, and I think I think you'll recognise it.
Well, yes, I'm not sure which is north and which is south or east and west, but I seem to remember the tracks, and that is our spacecraft at Tranquility Base.
It's an extraordinary picture.
Yeah,
the technology.
Isn't that really something? It's slightly different than some that I've seen of exactly the same scene, of course, and it certainly doesn't leave much of a doubt. I would ask somebody, "What the heck is that? What's that? What's that? What are these white spots?"
If you can point out some of the facets of this. Now what we're doing is looking at a picture of, it's called Tranquility Base at high noon, with a man whose footprints are on here. And you can see the various footprints. Which ones are yours?
I don't think it's that quite that high. And I'm not sure of the scale or the direction of our landing approach. And of course, that's the key.
Well, this is
I would kind of think that if this is north, then we're coming into land this way. And this little depression here looks a lot deeper than I think it really was, because I think this is the crater with all the debris that we're trying to avoid, and we flew over. And this is probably where we deployed some of the experiments that are out this way. And this may be Neil's stirred up the dust, going back here and taking a picture, and then coming back here while I was getting back in the spacecraft. Probably this is maybe where we put the flag, and this is where we put some of the experiments out this way. And the back of the spacecraft is where the experiments came from. If you look real close, you might be able to say, well, that's a landing pad there, and that's a landing gear pad, and you might actually see all four of them by looking around there. I think if you know what you're looking at and you throw that into the computer will find what you're looking at and refine what isn't there to make it look like it is there.
Yeah. How far did you venture? I mean, Neil went over there to, that's Little West Crater?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And somebody told me that was the point of putting the TV camera so you could see the launch.
I wouldn't be surprised. The flag would have been out here somewhere, and it was such that I was looking at the numbers and everything, and forgot to turn the camera on at liftoff. But as we lifted off, Neil could see the flag blowing over, and we chose not to tell people of that until a good bit later.
Something else that it's kind of widely known now. You took communion on the moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was told. I wasn't forbidden to do that, but it was suggested by the boss not to talk about it over the radio. So that's why I just asked people who were listening in to give thanks in their own way.
In any way they want.
Yeah, and in retrospect, you appreciate wisdom, even though you may not at the time agree with it. But certainly, it was a very it was a somewhat narrow ritual that doesn't include all mankind.
You approach from here, which is the west. I'm just pointing to the west of that photograph. And orbiting, first of all, you must have been going at an extremely fast pace. And it doesn't seem like the engines are that strong. How long does it take to slow down to the level where you can land safely?
11 minutes, power descent. And the throttle position is going to kind of average out to be what they expect. So at the end of that time, you're going to run short on fuel.
And you were aware that you were running short of fuel as you had to overshoot this rocky area of that Little West crater?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, when Charlie Duke, the capsule communicator, said 60 seconds, we were still about 100 feet. And I wasn't not sure we were going to make it in 60 seconds. But by the time the 30 seconds was called out, we were, you know, about 10 feet above the surface. And I figured we were going to make it in somewhat less than 30 seconds of fuel left.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very tense time, I suppose, for the people at Houston. I mean, as it's famously said, you know, thanks guys, we were turning blue, we can breathe again. Mm-hmm. Did you feel the tension?
No. We just had our own tension between the two of us, and I wasn't about to disturb Neil's calmness in selecting what to do next. But few people realize that that we had a computer autopilot that was not the very latest that MIT had developed. And had we waited another month, we would have had a more tight autopilot to control the drifting and the final touchdown. As it was, the system we had was borderline unstable, but it wasn't quickly unstable. I mean, it would not hold the right position. You'd begin to drift away. Well, the computer knew that you were not really motionless, and so that in later systems they could tie that knowledge of the computer into the control system, so it would make it very firm, very tight, and you'd move it somewhere and you'd repoint it, and it would just bring you to a motionless hover, and then control the descent to just touch down with just the right descent volume. It was a piece of cake. But you see, the commanders of the later flights didn't appreciate when I pointed this out to the general public.
Oh, of course not. I mean, they wanted to fly the thing, I suppose, more. So the subsequent to Apollo 11, nobody really had to do the seat of the pants flying like was done at that time. I would say that's the case. Yeah, we had the pressure of making the first landing, and it appeared as though in the conservatism in Neil's mind and mine, we just didn't want to hazard an undesirable place to touch down. So he took his time in finding a place. And it was the right decision. It's kind of like that pass in a Super Bowl that can make the difference, isn't it? These footprints, which are so clearly visible on this photograph, how long?
I'm really surprised that they showed up that way, but of course you look at people moving around and you see that each, unless it's a very gentle, when each time you put your foot down, you spray a little bit of dust in front of you. And evidently that makes a discoloring, not just at the footprint, but, I mean, that's my theory, see, as a fighter pilot theory on dust visibility on the moon, see. This is not a soil mechanics lunar expert talking, I'm just trying to explain.
A lot of common sense that applies on Earth doesn't apply on places like the moon. I mean, it doesn't get disturbed a lot, and those footprints are going to be there for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years.
Well, unless something that made that crater happens to hit there, then it'll kind of mess things up.
You'd be dumb out of luck if that happened. Thank you so much for your time, and regarding the photo, beautiful thing, and it's going to be there for a very long time. Amazing to think, 40 years ago, basically, your footprints.
Yeah, well, that's a good picture. I'll try and get one of these days.
Okay.